Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to talk to a fitness instructor, yoga instructor called The Reset. So this is Lindsay from The Reset here in Holyoke in my building. So we're going to talk about advice for wedding couples getting married in the next, 12 months or so, what they can do to help themselves get fit and feel better. This is Lindsay. So Lindsay, tell me a little bit about what you do, specifically what your Reset and The Reset is.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me. So in The Reset, we work with a piece of equipment called the TRX, which is all body weight driven.
Is that just all the straps? Are they called straps? Okay.
Yep. You pretty much become the machine with that. So I teach functional classes that run throughout the day, and then I do some personal training.
Perfect.
As well at The Reset.
So you're not part, and what you don't have in there is weights.
We do have weights.
You have like dumbbell, not like bench presses and things like that.
Not bench presses or squat racks, but like dumbbells. We do some wall ball things, some
big
battle
balls.
Ropes. Yep.
Yeah. Every time I can always tell when I come walking up that elevator, she must have a class because that music is always just blaring. And like I said, you are like the Energizer Bunny of physical fitness. You're always like energetic, running around, and I feel like you have to be.
100%.
I feel like you have to be, because if you were not, how could you motivate anybody else?
Biggest cheerleader for sure.
You have to be. You have to be. But you're in there too. You're like jumping on the floor and stuff like that.
Can't help it. I get way too excited.
And that's awesome, because that's what makes you so good at what you do.
Yeah, that's sweet of you.
That is really what makes you. So the TikTok and the social media, I love going by and taking a look to see what you're doing. And all of her description is going to be down below. Go give her a follow, because it's so entertaining. It is so entertaining. I know Holyoke a little bit, and I can tell when you were across the street at the warehouse in the dirt and on the ground and doing your whole motion of dancing and everything else like that. It's hilarious to watch.
Thank you.
And then the point of view ones you do in your room, when you reenact the instructor and you reenact the person that's supposed to be doing it.
Got to make it relatable.
Relatable is a good word. It really is. All right, enough about the social media. The whole reason I got you in here is brides and grooms are getting married. They're going to be hiring, all these people to come and make sure that they look good with dresses and hair and makeup. And I feel like a missing link to that has to start 6, 8, 12 months prior to their wedding day. And you being right down the hall from me, I'm like, oh my God, what advice could I give? And I can't give advice from a fitness point of view. I can give advice from a photography point of view, but I wanted to kind of like see if, my whole goal was to see, give me 5 tips, and they can be as advanced as you want to be and as beginner stages, novice stages, kind of thing like that. So what would be your first advice to a wedding couple, male or female, getting married, let's say in the next 12 months? What would be your first advice?
My first piece of advice would be whether you're looking to just like feel better, get stronger.
What's their goals?
Exactly. Come up with a goal. I try really hard not to tell people to focus on a number, whether it's like lose weight. Don't focus on a number that's going to just stress you out, and then it's not going to be enjoyable.
Good point. That's good advice, actually.
Yeah, because most people just dial in on like 15 pounds, and it does work like that, but most of your physical changes won't really affect the scale, but you'll feel better, you'll look better. So I would say definitely have a goal.
Yeah.
And then another piece of advice that I would give is, find something that you enjoy doing, whether it's like, if you like dancing, there's a ton of dance fitness classes that you can look into.
Good point.
Because it's going to hold you accountable, it's going to hold you consistent, and
dancing is fun.
And dancing is fun. And you'll feel better, you'll look better, more confidence. Those things are going to help you in your whole journey.
So goal would be number one. What would be like the personal goal for that individual of some sort? Okay. So what would be the next piece that you would advise for a wedding couple?
The next one would be, look into something that's going to hold you accountable in your fitness journey to make that goal sustainable, which would be hire a trainer, look into group fitness classes, maybe find a gym buddy, work with your significant other.
Good point.
So, again, you're holding yourself accountable. That's the biggest thing, is staying consistent and showing up for yourself and your goal and things like that. So,
that's good advice. And I feel like that's where people get lost. I feel like if they shot for a number, they would be disappointed if they didn't make the number.
It's so easy to quit when you're like, I don't see the scale moving. It's not working for me. No, stay consistent. Don't focus on the number. And, hiring a trainer, even though can be expensive.
I was just going to say that.
It can be pretty pricey. It's definitely worth the investment. But if you look into, the next best option is group fitness classes. A lot of places have like trial passes where you can pop on, see if you like it, if it's for you. And, again, that's just going to help you show up and do the work that you need to do for the goals.
Okay. Now, what would you suggest for, I feel like consistency really needs to be in whatever the person's going to do. Once a month for the next 12 months, you're probably not going to see the results that a goal would be doing that. So consistency must have to do that. So your first advice would be joining a group fitness first, getting involved with other people, going into a class so you don't feel so isolated with a one-on-one. And then as you move forward from there, you feel like you need a little bit more help or a little bit more like one-on-one, then they can hire you for that personal trainer kind of thing like that. So that's also a benefit too. So, but you can do both. And you can do both, whether it's a group thing and the individual thing.
Totally.
Accountability, having somebody else, hey, making sure I'm not feeling good, no, you need to go, kind of thing like that. But, well within the realms of possibility. What I like is when I see your classes, there's every age in there. There's every size in there. And I love that part of that because it's not always just about losing 25 pounds. Sometimes it's about flexibility. Sometimes it's about, somebody that was in a car accident like myself. I have limitations with what I can physically now do. So how would a bride and groom have, if they have limitations, is flexibility, how important is flexibility to the whole fitness thing?
Oh, absolutely. Crucial.
Okay, good point.
Being mobile, flexible, you want the longevity of you to keep feeling good. That's the whole purpose.
Even after your wedding.
Even after your wedding. I feel like that's very important too. But consistency, showing up and being dedicated to doing it. So we've got goal setting, accountability, flexibility. What other advice could you give to a bride and groom other than that? For your fitness journey. The basics of like drink water, manage your stress, moving will help, lower your stress level for sure. But
taking stairs instead of elevators. I feel like that's an old one.
But it's really, a goodie.
When we go on cruises, we take the stairs all the time just because it just kind of helps everything going. So that's a really good point also. So elaborate on that just a little bit more as far as the longevity of it, but elaborate a little bit more on the last thing you just said.
So once you start moving, I feel like, a lot of people kind of fix the rest of their lifestyle along with that. So it's like, maybe I'll go out for a drink or two and it's like, oh no, I'm working out. So I'm not going to have that drink tonight.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
There's a part of fitness that I know I really want to touch on, and I really want you to talk about eating healthier, because you do know this, and I do know this, that you can go to the gym, 5 times a week, but if you're still hitting McDonald's and you're still hitting, that cheat day kind of mentality, that takes away from a lot of that. So go back to that. Let's talk about food for just a minute when it comes to that. Not everybody can handle salad for every single meal.
Right. And
okay?
I wouldn't even suggest
Okay,
that.
so what would you suggest? Because people are going to ask, and alcohol also. I'd like to see if you can kind of, just your advice, and I understand that, it's just your advice, but as a fitness person, if somebody asks me advice about photography, I'm going to give you advice on my experience with photography and X. I would like your experience and advice on alcohol in fitness and then eating in fitness.
Most of the time, I would tell people to not really cut anything out unless you're having some sort of like allergic reaction.
Good
of course,
point.
take that out. It's important to focus on a balance, because if you cut things out and you restrict yourself, you're going to overdo it.
Oh, good point. Good point.
So I would say, moderation in everything, and balance.
Moderation.
In
Okay. I like that. I like that. So you're saying, I'm just going to be specific. Going to the gym 3 times a week with a fitness instructor in group 3 times a week. One of the things, obviously not even talking about the eating part of it yet, but would it be best to avoid wine and alcohol, or is that moderation?
Moderation.
So it's okay to have that drink of wine kind of thing. It's just not to the excess of.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Unless you are like, you know what, I'm gonna go for this, and you can hold yourself accountable to do it.
That's a great point right there. If you can hold yourself accountable,
if you can do it,
because alcohol usually leads to having fun with friends. Nachos come out, French fries come out.
Right.
That's what I'm talking about is willpower. You really do have to have willpower, especially for you to do what you need to do. You need to have your own willpower, but then your clients need to have their own willpower. You can only encourage them so much. You can't keep the French fry from going in somebody's mouth.
Literally.
Literally. Lindsay's not going to be at your door saying, I see you eating that cupcake.
Sometimes I would love to smack it out of your hand. But, right.
At the end of the day, it does come down to you.
Right.
It really does. So let's talk about food for just a second.
Sure.
How would you approach, we've got 12 months till the wedding. How would you incorporate a moderate, not somebody, 5 times a week hitting the gym and trying to cut, 75 pounds, but a 12-month period. What would you suggest for exercising per week? And that's not talking about just walking daily. So that should be an automatic, in my opinion.
Absolutely.
That should be an automatic.
Mm-hmm.
So they're already doing that. What would you say would be a moderate step for fitness next level above walking, coming to your classes and being involved with a class of other 20 people? How many times a week?
I would say like 3 to 4 times a week.
Okay.
Strength training, definitely any sort of movement, yoga, all those things. You can break it up. And then with the eating, you definitely want to have 3 meals a day with some snacks. Definitely you want to hydrate.
Do not drink enough water. You are absolutely right.
At all. You're supposed to drink your body weight. And yeah.
Good thing the bathroom's right over there for anybody that does that. It's like, and I know it's good for you. But when you do, the bathroom's got to be close by because, right. that's what happens. But that's good process. That's what your body needs to do. So hydrating to class 2-3 times a week inside of a class. And then if you want to do extra classes after that, that's okay. But walking number 1, hydrating number 2, and getting involved in some sort of fitness class with mobility. I love those ropes kind of thing like that. I love watching that. And I think that's a really cool exercise. And you, correct me if I'm wrong, you have different stations you set up.
Yeah.
So we talked about food, we talked about alcohol. I want to talk about, before I go to how your programs work, I want to give me some good ideas, 12 months now, food-wise. What would you suggest avoiding? Cut out XXX. And what would you suggest on incorporating? I'm not a salad 3 times a day kind of a person, but I can have a salad a good once or twice. But is this more like a moderate food? What would you suggest? Protein,
definitely,
chicken?
Yeah,
chicken?
Definitely. Okay. They have great apps out there that you can track your food. I don't always really recommend obsessive over it, and then you can cut some things out. But
are they accurate?
I would say probably if you're honest, if you're being truthful.
That's a good point. I did not have that cupcake today.
Yeah, like it's really
Don't need
easy
to add
not
that
to put it on there.
But I was wondering how accurate they would be, because if they felt like if you're cutting yourself down to 2,000 calories per day and you did that for 3 months, but you're not seeing any results, how accurate? That was my next. So what would your food meals be? What would you suggest your food meals be?
Definitely, you want to have protein in there. You want to have some sort of carb. Cutting carbs out completely is just not going to give you the fuel to do the things that...
What's a carb?
Bread, bagels.
So keep them, but moderation.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yep.
So everything we're talking about is all about moderation.
All about
I feel like that
moderation.
should be that is now at the top of my list, is moderation.
Yep.
So go ahead. So don't cut out the carbs, just moderate.
Yep. And you want to have some sort of fat in there too. So like a good fat is like peanut butter, beans, and that's going to also help you.
Can peanut butter be wrapped in chocolate? I'm just asking for a friend.
Of course. Moderation, definitely.
So, all right. So chicken, protein, fish, if people tolerate fish kind of thing, is that another good thing?
Yep.
And you can do all three of those things on lettuce.
Exactly. Right. If you're looking to, say you had already a big bagel for your breakfast and you're like, okay, I really want a sandwich for lunch.
Good point.
Did the carbs already.
Yep.
You could do a lettuce wrap. You could do they have I saw a watermelon as bread the other day.
I like watermelon. What was in between the watermelon?
It was like cheese, a pickle, and like balsamic.
Who comes out? I would have never.
I don't know, but it had really good reviews on it. So,
all right.
Not that I would really suggest that as your.
And I feel like not everybody has access to that. And I think that's creatively kind of cool, but I don't feel like wedding clients, that's what they're looking for. They're not looking for, they need to know, should I be eating more carrots? Should I be eating more celery? Should I be eating more, fruit, kind of thing like that. That's what I feel like people need to focus on. The gourmet stuff is great, but that's not normal.
Not normal at all.
At all.
But, they have really great services where you can order pre-made meals that are fresh, that can come to your door.
That is that
are all measured out.
I feel like you got to be really serious about, forgive me, you really should be serious about your fitness.
For sure.
You really should be serious about your fitness, because
you're only have one body.
You're looking at the rest of your life.
Yeah.
This is not just 12 months before you get married. This is the rest of your life. We need to treat this body like a temple, like it was made. So I'm glad you said that. It's the longevity because correct me if I'm wrong, if you create good, healthy habits and good physical activity habits now till your wedding, you're going to continue with those things afterwards, and you'll feel better about yourself down the road. So moderation, I feel like, is a good thing. So definitely more carrots, more, celery and things like that. Is peanut butter on celery okay? Is cream cheese on celery okay?
Totally.
Again, moderation kind of thing like that?
All moderation.
Okay.
Yeah. Like snacking, vegetables, with dip, all moderation for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. And definitely staying hydrated with water and things like that.
That's going to help you flush everything out.
Yeah.
It's going to make you feel fuller as well. It's going to help you just feel better in general.
Correct me if I'm wrong. It will also not only help you digestively wise, it will also help your complexion also.
Oh, water's the best.
I've heard a lot of things lately about a lot of people that are cleaning up their diets with what they eat, and all of a sudden their complexion is better. And there's such a correlation between the two of them that what you put in is what you get out. And that's just, physics and digest, that's 101. But that's why I wanted to talk about food and moderation and things like that. So now I want to talk about anything else. You want to talk about food?
I would say also food is definitely something you want to focus and dial in on, because it is 80% diet, 20% exercise.
Got it.
So I would definitely think of clean eating, moderation in certain things.
Yeah.
I love donuts. I love them, and I would eat them every day.
Her eyes are flickering at the same time as mentioning the words donuts.
Oh my gosh, I love them. But I know I don't feel good when I eat them every day. So I'll have them just twice in the week instead of every day, which,
Moderation.
stinks,
Right.
but
Right.
I feel better
Right.
when I take him
Right.
out.
And I think sometimes I've learned this myself. Sometimes I feel better when I do something wrong. Meaning like, oh my God, I should not have had X, whatever. You're like, you know what? Now I know how I feel after I've had that because I've been doing so good. You know what? I'm just not going to do it again. And just take it as what it is. You know what? I shouldn't have done it. And just go on and say, you know what? Now I remember how I feel after I had all the bloating that I feel now. You know what? I'm just not going to do that again until I get my fitness goals or whatever. But fitness aside and weddings aside, health is just such an important part of that. So let's talk about now your groups that you have inside of there, your stations that you have inside of there, and they rotate and things like that. So let's talk about that a little bit.
Sure. So in my fitness classes here at the Reset, we do high intensity, but everything has a modification.
I like that.
It makes it high intensity because everything is timed. So you have a certain amount of seconds to do, the battle ropes, and then you move to the next thing. So I try to program it in a way that you're getting the flexibility, mobility in one exercise. The next exercise you move to
Station
will be,
almost? Next station? Yep.
will be like a cardio move, and then your next exercise in that station will be a strength. So you're hitting all of them.
All three.
Yep, while your heart rate's going crazy up and down.
So when you do bodybuilding and fitness like that, most of them work on arms one day, back one day, legs one day. It sounds like you kind of do all three full body, and with the TRX, you use TRX?
Yeah.
TRX, those are based on body weight.
Absolutely.
So those you're kind of using your whole physical body throughout all of them. I hate burpees, always have hated burpees. But there's other things you can do instead of that. So if there's an exercise that physically, I can't do push-ups because of the bones in my chest. So physically, I can't do push-ups and burpees, but there's other stuff that I could do for upper body. And that's stuff that you can help with. Here's a good example. If somebody came in with physical limitations of, if they had a shoulder surgery or something like that, there's limitations that they can do with this. You can modify
Absolutely.
an exercise. Okay. So let's talk about that.
Sure.
Let's talk about that.
The one thing that I love absolutely about the TRX and why I'm such a big believer on it is there's so much versatility you can do with it, and it's all in a plank position. So if you're doing something in the TRX, which is like a basic row, and you feel that you can make it harder, all you do is adjust yourself to it. So if you have a limitation in, say, like your shoulder, you can change your hand position so you're targeting your biceps more while
Instead of the
still
shoulder.
getting.
And that's correct. That's just doing something like this
So
or
simple.
this, and it changes where the. Okay, that's a good point. And what about legs and knees? If somebody had a little bit more of an issue with getting up and down off of the ground, but they want more flexibility in their life. Obviously, you're not going to throw them down on the ground. But what could they do? What can you do as far as an exercise like that?
Changing your level. So like, instead of using the floor for a mountain climber, you can put your hands up on a higher position, still do the movement, still be in a plank position. So you're engaging your core, staying in your back, just changing slight things like that, still getting the maximum benefit of the exercise. And
I should have started with this first. You've been in your studio here at Open Square since 2020.
22.
22.
No, 2020.
2020. Okay, so right. So was that before or after COVID?
Yeah, it was like right when COVID started.
How? Side note here. How in the world did that? Because I was still working a full-time job. I was considered essential, so I still was able to go back and forth to work. You physically have to have people in front of you. Were you able to still meet and do 6 feet apart, or how did that affect you?
Only 5 people in the class, so I had to station people out. Luckily,
and people still came.
Oh,
that's awesome.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
It was difficult, but I have a nice space where the windows can be opened. Yeah. There's high ceilings, so people felt safe in their station. even though I could only have limited.
Okay.
And still I worked one-on-one with people.
Yeah.
So
And here you are 4 years later,
Oh.
2024.
Feels like
How many
14
groups
years.
do you do? And I know every day is going to be different. So what would be like your most popular days of the week, Monday to Friday?
6 a.m. Monday through Friday is the pop-in class. People
Really?
want to get it over and done with.
Because they're going home,
before-
shower up, and go to work.
Yeah, exactly.
Makes total sense. And is this a mind thing or not? I'm going to ask you this. When somebody goes to the gym that early in the morning and then they go throughout the rest of the day, do they feel better knowing they've already got the workout in? Because I'm up at 6 o'clock in the morning and I'm walking by 7 o'clock. And I go get my 3.5 miles in and I feel so much better walking. That way there's like, you know what? I really don't need that donut kind of thing. Does that help with mentality?
100%.
Okay. Now, what if somebody's not a morning person? I'm trying to cover all the bases here. I don't want no excuses from anybody. Well, I can't get up at that early morning. What are the classes? So 6 o'clock in the morning is one class. What other classes do you do? That as far as scheduled?
Yep. So I do like a 6, a 7, a 9, and then evening classes at like 4:30 and a 6 p.m. So there's classes after you get out of work. There's classes. I have also people that come on their lunch break. That's how dedicated they are.
I love that.
Yeah. To move and groove during classes.
Good.
Yeah.
Good. That's encouraging. So like I said, the whole goal for this was to just kind of make sure, what can I give some advice? How can we give some advice to people that are getting married in the next 12 months? We talked about, first of all, eating right, staying high. I feel like hydration and moderation is like at the top of setting realistic goals. Realistic goals. You may not lose that 75 pounds you want by the time that wedding comes around, but will you feel better losing half of that? And don't be frustrated with that. But will you feel better in your physical, in your mobility? Can you do this now when you can do that before? What other advice would you give to a wedding couple getting married in the next 8 to 12 months, other than food and the exercise and any other advice as far as what's something else somebody can do, even just walking through the mall?
Yeah.
If it's a rainy day, you can walk through the mall.
Moving, any sort of movement. There's a lot of free content on the internet. If you are stuck at home, for example, say the kids are sick and you're like, oh, I got to do something. Go on YouTube, find like a 20-minute like stretch that you can do. Good and point. They'll lead you
Let's talk
through
about
that.
Stretch for just a minute.
Yeah.
Because it's one thing we haven't touched on yet, but how important is stretching when it comes to fitness?
So important.
Go ahead. I want to hear more.
A lot of aches and pains that we have are because we're constantly on our phone. We're around.
Did you see your shoulders when you did that? You are so right. This is now.
It is.
This is now.
COVID has destroyed our posture and like just feeling like you just got to sit or, lay down or any of those things.
Stretching before is I feel like the most important thing, because I've heard stories of people not stretching good enough, or they thought they stretched good enough. Then they went into a hyper jump around, doing the ropes, and all of a sudden they pulled a muscle in their back or their shoulder because they didn't stretch.
Yeah.
So what does stretching do?
Stretching definitely warms your body up to make sure your muscles and joints are moving in the ways that they
Ligaments
should be.
And things like that?
Yeah.
Good.
Yep.
What about, stretching also warms you up to also, it raises that body pressure and not body pressure, heart rate and things like that to kind of get ready for what you're going to do. But stretches like doing like this and I sit down on the ground all the time and I bring my legs together, stretch out my legs, hamstrings, and calves before I go for my walk.
Yeah, yep. Any sort of dynamic stretch, like it's great to do some static stretching after.
What's a static stretching?
Like sitting there and holding it.
Yep.
Most of the time you want to do some sort of dynamic, like some jumping jacks, we do some like lunges in our classes. We do a move that everybody doesn't like is inchworms, which is literally warming you up from head to toe. Nobody likes
I just had a flashback to one of your TikToks, and I believe it's called a bear crawl.
Yeah.
Did you do the bear crawl
backwards all around? Yeah.
That was a track and field track.
Oh, yes. Oh, gosh. I don't recommend doing that.
I'm looking at it and I'm watching the clip and I was like, oh my God. And you went all the way, mountain climber, all the way around.
And I didn't warm up for that, and I was sore for like 3 days. I like couldn't properly
I would have been sore
sit.
for like 3 months.
Oh my gosh,
I probably
it
couldn't
was
sit down
silly.
for 3 months.
I don't recommend doing
No,
that.
but that's the stuff that I'm talking about on your social media that's very fun and entertaining, and it kind of brings a whole new light to fitness. And so what is your title? Are you a fitness instructor? Are you a yoga instructor? What is your title as far as that? What's your title?
I would say group fitness
Group
and
fitness.
personal training.
Personal training. So not yoga.
I don't teach yoga.
Okay. I feel like that's a separate thing.
Yeah,
Okay,
yep.
cool.
But we do have some instructors that do yoga. They do like a more gentle, meditative yoga.
So you know people, if somebody was kind of wanted to do a little bit of yoga for meditation purpose and fitness, you have people you can recommend?
Absolutely.
That's awesome. That's a really good, I even think about that, but I feel like that's, because some people need that. So for me, the disconnect from electronics is sometimes I just put my phone down and I just go outside and sit in my backyard with just no electronics. It just need that disc. And meditation is that also. But you can't meditate if your phone's on the side of you beeping.
Yeah, nope.
Flashback, your social media again. What was the class that you did? It looked like a class where somebody was walking in front of you and you were almost underneath an awning and there was a whole bunch of people in front of you. It was just like not too long ago. What was that?
Dance fitness.
Where was that?
It was in East Hampton. They had Cultural Chaos, which is something they do every year, kind of like a festival. They bring a lot of entertainment, a lot of kid activities. So I hosted a 30-minute dance fitness class there, and people were able to just come in and out and things like that.
It looked like a good turnout.
Great turnout.
It looked like a good
a lot
turnout.
Of fun.
Yeah.
Kids were able to join in.
Yeah.
Older people were able to join in. So yeah, that is a lot of cardio, and it's just like follow along. Like with that class that I teach, a lot of people worry about not getting the steps right, and it's like just move. You hear the music,
just move.
March. Can you move your feet? Just move your feet. It doesn't matter. You're not getting graded on this. Again, just.
How self-conscious? I'm self-conscious. Let's be honest. Everybody's self-conscious in some way, shape, or form of others. What advice would you give to somebody who's a little bit on the shyer side, but still has physical ambitions coming to your class? What advice would you give them if somebody's a little bit on the shyer side?
I would say it's so hard not to look around, but trust me, nobody is looking. They're too busy worried about the steps, catching their breath. So I would go in with blinders on completely and just focus on the instructor, listen to the song, maybe,
even if you're half a step behind everybody else, I think that's okay. I feel like that's okay, but it's about the movement. If you're not as fast as the other person or not as athletic as the other person or not as limber as the other person, it's about the movements. If you're a half a step behind, there's no, like I said, it's not being judged, there's no points deducted.
Right.
It's just getting your heart rate level up higher from what you normally do. And I feel like that's one of the things that deters people from getting involved with classes is I have no coordination, I feel like would be the biggest gripe of somebody.
A lot of them, I get that one a lot. The biggest one I get is like, I'm not in shape for that class. And it's like, no, that's why people take the class, and we all had to start somewhere. Everybody had to start that class. Everybody had to learn the steps. Everybody had to learn what feels good, what doesn't. So it's a safe space, no matter what you decide to do, whether it's with a trainer, group classes on your own. Definitely give yourself some grace. You're starting this journey and everybody is right there with you, cheering you on. So again, it's hard if you're taking a class and you're new to not compare, but don't do it. It's so not worth it. Because we're all in it together. So
any other advice you'd give to a wedding couple, anything like that, fitness-wise, eating-wise, health-wise, any other advice?
I would just say, again, like managing your stress levels and things like that. Go to the gym to get that stress out, and just stay consistent and find something that you enjoy doing, whether again it's with your significant other and you're working out together, make sure that you enjoy it and you don't start hating it because it's just not going to set you up for that goal that you're looking for.
And if somebody has ambitions to eat better fitness-wise and get more involved with something like that, but the significant other is not around or not on board, meaning somebody has a different schedule. Somebody's a nurse that works third shift and you work during the day, but what advice would you give somebody that has somebody that can't go with somebody else but still wants to have ambitions to do something?
I would say, again, like joining the group classes is where it's at, because you're going to make friends. People are going to say like, hey, how come Ron wasn't in class last week? Like, are they okay?
Good point.
You know,
good point.
They'll be looking for you. So if you can't go with a friend that you, wanted to go and work out with, like still show up.
Still go.
Yeah.
Still go.
Because people are going to see that you're not there if you sign up for those classes.
Yeah. So, and they can go to your website, which is all going to be in the description down below. They can go to your website. Your classes will be inside of there. The contact information is going to be inside of there. Everything's on your website to contact you. So we're going to put your links for all your social media down below inside of the descriptions. Your website's going to be down there and stuff like that. Other than that, I don't have any other questions for that. It's just about, it's my moderation. If you really got sick 12 months before your wedding, what can you do? And starting with walking and drinking and eating right, and you'll feel better in the longevity part of it. That's the most important thing.
Definitely moderation, baby steps, start small, work your way up. And
good.
I love it.
All right, everyone. Thank you guys for coming back to the channel. This was all about just what you can do for your fitness goals. If you don't have any, it's time to get some. If you got 12 months toward to your wedding, now would be a good time to start looking into that and just start with those baby steps and stuff like that. So thank you guys for coming back to the channel, and peace.